Well, hey everyone, good afternoon. Thank you for being with us on this slightly damp Monday. My name is Justin Hogan. I am the Program Officer for Economic Equity with the Community Foundation of Louisville, and I am excited and grateful that all of you are joining us for this info session about the Alden Fellowship. For just a little bit of housekeeping as we get started, just as a heads up, we are recording this session and it will be uploaded to the Foundation's website for any individuals who are not able to be with us today. And secondly, as we're going through, we fully imagine that questions are going to come up. We encourage you to use the chat, which the incredible Miss Donna Brown will be monitoring for us. And later in the hour, once we've sort of gone through some of the base information, we will absolutely open the floor for any additional questions that have either come in through chat or that you might want to come off mute and add. So with that, I'm actually going to hand things off very quickly to Amber Burns-Jones, our Director of Community Engagement, for a short welcome. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you, Justin. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us during what is probably your lunch hour. As Justin said, I'm Amber Burns-Jones, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement. And I have the honor of just welcoming you on behalf of the Foundation, where we are mobilizing people, networks, and capital to spark meaningful change in and beyond Louisville. We're really happy that you are interested in applying to this year's group of Alden Fellows after a 2 to 3 year hiatus from us. And Justin is going to go into a bit more detail about a little bit of the history of the Alden Fellowship and eligibility requirements. So again, thank you for being here. And I'm going to turn it back over to Justin.
Awesome. Thank you, Amber. Really, really appreciate that. So just as a high level look at what we're going to spend our hour on today, as Amber indicated, I'm going to give a little bit of context on the Alden Fellows program, how it came to be, and what its purpose is. We'll look at the timeline for, the application and review process, and including the fellowship year itself. We'll look at some of the eligibility criteria, and then get into what I think everyone is interested to hear about, which are, the application questions and what we as the foundation see as making like a really great Alden Fellows applicant. And then, of course, we'll open it up for questions. So to do some of that high-level context setting, the Alden Fellowship was seeded by the incredible generosity of a gentleman named William Alden Jr. I think I might be wrong. Might be senior, might be junior. Forgive me on that. But William Alden, who unfortunately passed away last year, he was an incredible supporter of the nonprofit community in Louisville and saw that there was a need that he felt his dollars could help support. So the Alden Fellows provides funding specifically for nonprofit executives to pursue professional and leadership development opportunities. To add a little bit of extra context on that, we as the foundation believe that you as the leaders of your respective organizations know best what you need to scale your impact and scale your growth. So we put incredibly minimal stipulations on what and how you would choose to spend your fellowship year. In the past, we have had fellows pursue certifications from Ivy League institutions. We have also had fellows go overseas to receive culturally relevant training in their field of choice. And we have seen fellows pursue very, very specific certifications that are needed for their organization to grow and scale. So there's a lot of creativity and flexibility within, this program. Why? Simply, we believe, and I think we know, that the nonprofit ecosystem is strengthened when its leaders have access to opportunity. We also know that leadership development opportunities are not something that nonprofits often carve out for themselves. We're constantly engaged in the work, and we're constantly wanting to give back to community, and we don't often invest in ourselves. So we see, and Mr. Alden saw, a real need in wanting to support nonprofit leaders to support themselves. And lastly, to just look at the impact, since 2015, 38 fellows have received over $210,000 to explore fellowships of their choosing. All right, take a quick look at the timeline. We are currently in the expression of interest application phase that will go until the Monday after Derby. So as the clock strikes midnight from Monday going into Tuesday is when this application phase will close. We'll go through a month-long review and selection process that will result in a smaller list of finalists that will then have another month to present a more formal application on how they would spend their fellowship year, including the use of funds. We'll take another few weeks to review and make a determination at the very end of July, which then means that your official fellowship year will run from August 25 to August 26, and we'll talk about why that year is kind of important as we transition into some of these fellowship requirements and eligibility requirements. Moving directly into that, the primary eligibility criteria is that one must serve as the executive director, CEO, president, or equivalent title within their organization to be eligible. We know that not every organization uses the same terminology, so that's why we use that or equivalent title. I come from an arts background, and we know that artistic director is often what some organizations use. So we're flexible on what that title is, but what's really important there is that you must be leading the organization. You must be kind of the central leader of the organization to be eligible. However, as with anything, there are certain exceptions. The primary exception that I want to note here is that if there is a defined and imminent leadership transition, for example, you will become that leader on a target date, please reach out to us. We may be able to issue an exception in a case like that. Secondly, and these are really the only two eligibility criteria, your nonprofit organization must be headquartered in and serve Jefferson County, Kentucky. Effectively, we mean Louisville, but Jefferson County is where we wanted to draw the county lines. However, once again, there is a possible exception, and I am saying possible because there will need to be further discussions about this, but a reasonable exception could include an organization and leader who have a significant presence in Jefferson County, and a majority of your services are provided here. To like be a little more clear about what that might look like in practice is, let's say that your organization is right across the county line. You are a street away from the Jefferson County line, but are technically headquartered in, say, Shelby County. But 100% of your services are delivered to Jefferson County. Give us a call. Give me a call. And that's something that we can look at and explore. Those are really the only two eligibility criteria. However, there are some expectations and some certain requirements should you become a fellow. So let's take a quick look at those. The first one, and we already kind of talked about this at the top, but the funds will be used for leadership development, such as executive education, advanced certifications, or, and this is really, I think, the key one that we led with, a customized program that aligns with your goals. We know that the Harvard Business School's leadership development certification, I believe that's the name of it, is probably useful for just about anyone. However, if you and your organization are in need of a particular set of skills that would be customized, we see that as being equally applicable. Again, what we want to reiterate here is that customization is a good thing and that creativity is certainly encouraged. Secondly, again, as we go through this, for the folks who are selected as finalists, we will ask for a fellowship plan. If during your fellowship year there are any substantial changes, we will ask that you reach out to us and just consult us about any substantial changes. What we don't mean by that is like, hey, I thought it was going to cost $500 for a flight to X place. It's actually going to cost $1,000. Like, we don't see that as a substantial change. To use the Harvard analogy again, if you propose that you're going to receive the certification from an institution and either you change institutions or you change the program, that's where we would want to just have an understanding of what that substantial change is and ensure that it's aligning with your fellowship goals. This one gets a little sticky, so I'm going to take just a quick second to talk about it. That the program is designed to support individuals working within Louisville's nonprofit sector. We know the career changes happen. We know that sometimes they are planned and sometimes they are unplanned. Should you change roles, particularly during your fellowship year, we will work in good faith with you to ensure that there is still alignment with the program, with your development, and with your development. However, what I think I will note here is that if you are expecting or if you are planning for a significant change in your professional status, particularly one that would take you out of the nonprofit sector, in that August 25 to August 26 range, the Alden Fellows might not be for you. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. And lastly, and this is the one stipulation that we do have through sort of the programmatic guidelines, is that fellowship dollars cannot be spent on wellness retreats or other personal wellness experiences. It must go towards to look at that top level expectation. Again, it must be used for leadership development, such as education, training, certifications, etc. And the last one is that fellowship dollars cannot be used for already spent funds. Again, to use the same sort of Ivy League certification example, let's say that your tuition is going to be spread out over 3 tranches. You have already spent your first tranche, or you've already paid for your first tranche, either from your own personal expenses or from your organization, and you are made a fellow in between the first and second, your fellowship dollars cannot be used to reimburse for the first tranche, but could be used for the second and third tranches. Those are the primary, again, requirements, expectations from an eligibility standpoint and a fellowship standpoint. We're actually doing really well on time. So we're just gonna keep it rolling and jump into the application questions themselves, which again is why I think we're all here. So going back to the timeline that we talked about at the very top, we are currently in the expression of interest phase, which is the first of a 2-phased process that we're going through. With this phase, what we're really looking to better understand is who you all, many of you all are on the call. Teresa, I do see your hand up. I'll come back to you once we're on the other side of this, if you don't mind. I just wanted to acknowledge that I did see it. That this part of the process is designed to get you all as leaders, or get to know you all as leaders better as individuals, as professionals, as leaders, and as future change makers in our community. Again, to go all the way back to the first thing that we mentioned, this program is really designed to help leaders pursue professional development opportunities so that they can deliver more impact in community. So what are we looking for? Well, the first thing that we're looking for is, again, to better understand you better. We are looking for applicants that demonstrate passion, demonstrate dedication to this community. Secondly, we're looking for people who are on a growth journey. What is the growth that you hope to achieve over the next few years? And really what we hope that growth translates into is additional impact. That can be additional impact in community. That can be additional impact for your organization. It can be additional impact in however you want to define it within the context of your growth and your journey as a leader. And kind of segues really nicely. The last thing that we're looking for is intentionality. We want to make sure that all these things are talking to each other, that what you're demonstrating as passion and dedication for Louisville feeds directly into your growth journey, that feeds directly into the impact that you want to see occur through your growth, or the impact that you're not seeing that you could see as a result of this journey. Yes, and thank you for Donna noting that or noting something in chat. Let's look at the questions themselves, and again, how these different themes, if you will, sort of translate from the questions into what we're looking for. So, first question, what excites you about your work as a leader? What aspect of your role brings you the most fulfillment? This is really focused on you as the person. Yeah, we're really looking to better understand, again, you as an individual, as a leader, as a change maker. I think that one makes the most bit of sense. Second, what is a challenge that you're currently facing in your leadership journey that would be aided by this fellowship? I think it's pretty clear that what we're looking for here is a growth trajectory. What is something what is a barrier that could be in your way that could be unlocked through the professional development or the executive development or leadership development that you outline for yourself through your fellowship. The secondary thing would kind of come down to impact a little bit, but I think the primary thing that we would be looking for in this question is that growth journey. Number 3, this is where we, again, I think start to, where we're going to pivot a little bit, and we're starting to look at more multifaceted aspects of your journey. What does growth as a leader look like to you? When you think about where you want to be in a few years, how do you see yourself evolving? There is certainly yourself. noted in this question. We want to understand what your growth looks like, or what you look like, how this affects your growth. And then lastly, it's that intentionality piece. Like, where is the intentionality between you as an individual and your growth as a leader? And lastly, we wanted to keep these applications incredibly short and to the point. So our fourth and final question on this expression of interest application is, how do you see leadership as a tool for impact, whether within your organization or the broader community? How do you hope your leadership makes a difference? Again, the expression of interest phase is focused on you. So we're trying to center you in a lot of these questions. But in the question itself, how do you see it as a tool for impact? What is that relationship between yourself as a leader and your impact in community? And what is the intentionality between those? How do they talk to each other? How do they marry together? You all, I really sped my way through this. I thought that this was going to take us another 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm not sure if that's just because I had a little too much coffee this morning, or if I was much more concise with my talking points. From a fundamental perspective, that's where we are. I think I saw that Donna brought this up in the chat. This application period will run through May 5th. I'm open to any questions. And Donna, do you want to facilitate anything that you're seeing in chat, and I can go from there?
Absolutely. We have one person. Teresa says she can't see the PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, no.
If somebody could give me a thumbs up in the chat if they're able to see it.
Hey, Miss Donna. So yeah, I actually saw the very first, I guess, page of the PowerPoint presentation, which is just the green Alden Fellows information. I didn't know I had to click through the presentation myself to keep up with the slides. So I'm on the same page now.
That's weird. Sometimes Teams can be a little weird, so I'm glad you've seen it.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
And thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, if you do have to click through, again, I'll answer, or I'll raise this. On the other side of this, again, we are recording this. The PowerPoint will also be made available online, so all the information that has been walked through will be available. However, if there are specific questions about things, I'll also note what slide it is. So if folks are having to manually toggle, that'll hopefully help. Any questions? Again, I don't see any others in the chat. So if you would like, either please go ahead and raise your hand or come off mute and we can go from there. Yeah, Cassandra, I saw yours jump up.
Hey, Justin and team. I have a question in regards to the cohort that is selected. You may have covered this, but how many individuals will be selected for this year? And then what will be the relationship amongst cohort members? Are there opportunities to connect with them, to network, to kind of share learnings from individual programs that may be beneficial to everyone that's participating? What does that relationship look like?
Yeah. Cassandra, what an awesome question. Thank you. So there are 5 spots available this year. And actually, because I didn't say this, there will be 5 Alden Fellows who will receive up to $10,000 for their professional development journey. We are carving out this year 2 spots specifically for what we are defining as emerging leaders. And the way that we have chosen to do that for the purposes of this year is individuals who have 3 or less years in an executive leadership position. So to kind of put a bow on that, 5 total positions, or 5 total fellows for this year, 3 of whom will have 3 or greater years of experience in an executive leadership position, and 2 that will be for 3 or less years. So that's from the just pure numbers of it. From a networking piece, we are planning on at least 2 opportunities throughout the fellowship year to connect with the prior fellows. Again, we've got a network of 38 other Alden Fellows in the community, many of whom, or just 38 other Alden Fellows, many of whom are still working and living in Louisville. We already sort of have a planned fellowship dinner that'll take place about a month after the fellows are announced, just to get people together in a very unstructured environment to chat, network, share learnings, and other things. And we're kind of planning on doing another one at about the halfway point to kind of do a check-in with folks to see how they're doing, share learning, again, share learnings, network, stuff like that. So I hope that answers that.
Vanessa has a question, and then we have a couple in the chat.
Wonderful.
Hi, can you hear me?
A little
Yes.
bit louder.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna go outside. Hold on. My question is, hold on. My question is, when we do the interest application or interest portion, do we need to already know like how we want our professional, I guess how we want our leadership growth designed, or is that something we can create and if we make it to the next round?
Vanessa, I just want to say it back to you. You were louder than you were, but I just want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly. You're curious whether or not at this stage during the expression of interest, do you need to have your fellowship year and what you would spend the funds on already determined? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. The short answer is no, you do not, but it is something that I would give some consideration to with respect to how that might help with the intentionality piece of demonstrating yourself as a leader, your growth journey, and the impact that you're providing into community. Like there are no questions and there's no expectation that you would say, I would do X, Y, or Z in this application. But I think if we can begin to sort of see behind the proverbial curtain, that wouldn't hurt an application. So I hope that helps there.
Yes, thank you.
Of course.
Okay. Lisa would like to know, would this be something where the fellowship would support funding, putting someone through Leadership Kentucky?
I don't see why not. I'll be fully transparent that I'm not familiar with Leadership Kentucky. I'm familiar with Leadership Louisville. But again, as long as there is a direct kind of link between, again, the growth journey that you're on and how your fellowship supports it, we are not going to stand in the way of something like that. And again, that is something that we would specifically dig into in the formal application phase after we've selected finalists.
Thank you. Hey, now Michael wants to know, he runs a Louisville-based organization that works across the entirety of the state. Given that quite a bit of our work happens outside of Jefferson County, he's not sure of his eligibility. Thoughts?
Yeah, Michael, you would be eligible because you're based in Jefferson County. We don't need you don't have to be, or not all of your services have to be provided in Jefferson County. You have to be headquartered here and serve Jefferson County to absolutely be eligible. Where again, on the eligibility criteria, I don't want to call it wiggle room, but where conversation would be needed is if you're outside the county line, but do a majority of your services within the county lines. Or if there was a case where you were located here, but 100% of your services were provided outside the county, we might have to have a conversation there. But I think we know that there are many statewide organizations that are based here. And we don't have any real challenges or problems with that.
Constance has a great question about this selection criteria. And is there a rubric?
There is, and let me go ahead and find it. Forgive me, I just don't want to give you bad information. What I will lean on is again, what kind of makes a good Alden Fellow is something that we wanted to reflect in the rubric. Forgive me as I'm clicking around for just a second. So, and again, I'll just kind of read these off this page. The criteria that we're sort of looking at, or that we are looking at, are leadership, role, and organizational context. So to draw kind of a line, and forgive me, just on my screen, I'm going to click forward one more. Organizational role and leadership role and organizational context. Forgive me. Let me not stumble on my words. That's a place where we are looking at, again, you as the individual. Authenticity and passion for leadership. Again, we're looking at you as the individual. Clarity and depth of leadership challenge. That's where we're looking, again, at growth. What is the growth journey that you as the leader are going on, and how can this fellowship support that? Vision for growth and leadership evolution, starting to kind of run that line between your growth and your vision, or your vision and impact. Potential for impact, organizational or community. It's in the title of that rubric, definitely focused on impact. And then overall strength, which the one of the guiding questions is really on, like, what does the package look like as a whole? So there's sort of your intentionality piece. Constance, I hope that helps to answer that question. Any others? People, feel free to come off of mute. Again, we've got another half an hour together, so I'm happy to dig into specific elements of any of these questions or the program that you may have. Yeah,
Hey,
Doris, please.
Justin. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go for it,
Oh, can I answer? Can I ask the question now?
please.
Okay. I still can't see the display presentation. So is there any way that rubric could be emailed to us, or will you put up a link where we could watch the whole thing again since there was
Yes.
a presentation, please?
Yeah, here's what I'll do. I'm gonna post the rubric into chat. So hopefully that popped up down there at the bottom.
Okay. Yeah.
To help out with that. But yes, this will be posted online, and we're going to translate the PowerPoint into a PDF that can also be accessed online. Apologies that you're having some of those struggles.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Cassandra, I see your hand back up, and then Teresa.
And sorry for raising my hand. I'm having a hard time finding the chat. And again, you may have covered this, but at the end of the program, is there a requirement for the fellows to report out about their experiences? And if there is, what does that look like?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, but we want for that to be a flexible experience, and we want for that to be an experience that works for each fellow on their journey. What we won't be doing, or what we haven't done in the past, let me, I guess, frame it that way, is that we've not had some like large public event where there's an expectation to deliver a fellowship report in front of, fill in the blank number of community members. What has traditionally happened in the past, and what we may continue, is that with those sort of like biannual networking events, that when a new fellowship is being, or when a new group of fellows is being announced, that's also as the previous set of fellows are completing their fellowship. So there's sort of a potential final report out from last year's fellows, along with an introduction to the new fellows. More to come on that. Again, is something that Amber mentioned, is that we've gone on a 2-year hiatus with the Alden Fellows for just some operational reasons. So as we relaunch it, everything is kind of under examination with this. So some of that could flex and change, just for transparency's sake. Teresa.
Okay, perfect. Hey there, Justin. Couple of questions. So I was able to find fellowship expectations and timeline that was online. And I see that the fellowship report out is sometime between August and September of next year. So basically, we have just one calendar year from August to August to complete our education as defined by our goals. Right? Okay.
Yes, I think the only caveat that I would put in there is something that like I'll use an MBA program as an example. Like we know that an MBA program would not be accomplished in 1 year, but saying something like taking substantial steps towards completing an MBA program would still be in alignment with the fellowship.
Okay. No, it makes
Yeah.
sense. Mhm.
Yeah. Or if you're like again pursuing like if you're pursuing something that will take longer, this can be a step in that journey. It wouldn't have to start and end within a 12-month period, but it certainly can.
Okay, perfect. And then my next question is, I know that there is no one size fits all to leadership or professional development. So as we develop our plans out, can they include more than one activity or opportunity? Perhaps a conference
Yes.
and then paying for a certification.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes. I think, and again, here, like I'm gonna go back to just the intentionality piece there, that as
Mhm.
long as there's like a through line between everything that you're electing to spend the year on, I think that's more important than or is of equal importance to the individual things that make up that. And again, I think like broadly speaking, if we're thinking about a fellowship year, there are different experiences that we all go through in a year. So yeah, there would be no, I think, direct challenge to a multitude of things.
Thank you.
Of course. Cassandra, I'm not sure if your hand is still up, or if okay. Thanks. Stephanie.
Hi. I have a quick question. I'm not sure if this is something you can answer, but can you give me an example of what people have done in the past with their funding?
I absolutely can, and I'm gonna do two things here. I think we don't have it online. So one of the things I will in years past we've had an impact, sort of small impact report on the website. Couple examples that I think I can highlight. My goodness, his name is escaping me with Kentucky Shakespeare. I'm so embarrassed by that. But he went over to London and spent time at the theater in London where Shakespeare wrote most of his seminal works and did a lot of learning and cultivation of how to be a better director of a Shakespeare company in Louisville, Kentucky. We had I think it was Damarian Fleming was Sowing Seeds to Faith, also went overseas and was who I think I mentioned at the top, went overseas to receive culturally relevant training that was in support of his organization. Um, there was another, again, my background is in the arts, so some of this is coming from that lens. Robert Curran with the Louisville Ballet um, did a retreat with other artistic leaders in ballet to discuss best practices in the arena. We have certainly seen a number of we've seen a number of leaders specifically target leadership development programs at accredited universities. Um, Amber, if you're still around, a former colleague of yours also had a really impressive fellowship that I think again is sort of like unique, creative, off the beaten path. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Yes, so another former Alden Fellow was Karen Moskowitz, who was the executive director of New Roots, which is a food justice and food access nonprofit organization. And she used her fellowship to travel over to South Korea, where with another cohort of folks, studied their food systems and urban agricultural practices in order to incorporate some of those principles in her work.
Yeah, Stephanie, does that help? Or are there other is there a lens through which you're sort of considering a fellowship or looking for specific information?
No, you answered my question very well. I still have some thinking to do, but this gives
Great.
me an idea of where to head. Like, give me
Wonderful.
some idea of where I need to be.
That's great. Thanks. I'm seeing a question in chat from Brian. Does there have to be an official certificate of some kind of completion, or it can be a tangible goal with achievable goals to measure? Um, I'm gonna lean again on the intentionality piece from earlier. I think if there is a rationale behind the things that all lead to a goal, I think that's what we're looking for more than here's this piece of paper that an organization printed out for me after completion of X number of hours of work or study. Again, there is nothing wrong with either approach. I'm gonna again kind of lean on what we mentioned with Stephanie's. I think what we're looking for a little bit is like that you've sort of done the homework to recognize what are the resources that you need to grow as a leader that this fellowship can uniquely provide the funding or access to achieve.
Justin, this is Brian following up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, the examples you gave were really helpful. I mean, like just those examples, tangible things that people are going to do to learn, to grow. But obviously, the guy who's going to the theater in London to get that group, I mean, no certificates coming from that, but a very intentional approach on growing and learning. So that's helpful.
Yeah, you nailed it. Said it better than I have all hour. Any other questions? These have all been fantastic. I'm really glad that we're setting aside an hour for, to dig in on exactly things like that. Yeah, I think the other thing, and I will say this on the call, and I think we'll find a way to put it up on the website too, but over the next couple of weeks in particular, I'm also happy to carve out an office hour. So if you have any questions, I mean, you can give me a call or you can email me anytime, but I'm also happy to carve out an hour over the next couple of weeks for anyone that would want to jump on and have a more in-depth conversation about the Alden Fellows program. I'm going to start to actually, with that, I'm going to kind of like just slide over to sort of, I guess, our closing slide here. That if, we are eternally grateful for your time. We also have a deep and real understanding of how capacity strapped everyone is in the nonprofit space, particularly our nonprofit leaders. So, that's why we wanted to hopefully do this over a lunch hour, or maybe you had a little bit more availability. My contact information is right there, just in case you can't see the slide. My email address is justin.h@cflouisville.org. And my office line is area code 502-855-6954. Please feel free to reach out to me or Donna with any questions. And, we are here to support you on your journey. Because I'm not seeing any other questions, I think we'll go ahead and give you back 20 minutes of your time. I feel like that's more impactful than, say, giving you back 5 minutes of your time. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday. And if you celebrate, happy Derby next week.